Welcome to the Holy Land Uncovered. We have a terrific Christmas special for you today. We're coming to you from Jerusalem, from the Notre Center. It's home to a 19th century cathedral and monastery. Now we have a terrific list of guests coming up, historians and religious leaders, to talk about the meaning and depth of this holiday. Plus, we're going to take you across the country for tree lighting ceremonies and a special tour of Nazareth, the city that defined Jesus and his ministry. Stay with us. Joining me now is Father Eamon Kelly. He's the former deputy director of the Notre Dame Center and the current director of Magdala. Father Kelly, always so great to have you on the show, especially for Christmas. Before we get into the history of this magnificent place and this stone we're standing next to, I wanted to ask you what it means for you to actually be here in the Holy Land on Christmas.
It's very special. So many people would dream to be in Bethlehem on Christmas Day or Christmas night, and it's already my 11th time.
Wow,
so
11th.
It's very special, and every time is equally special. It's special because of the place, it's special because of the time, obviously, and it's special because of the people. And it's never the same, and it's always filled with joy and simplicity, and then also with the normal, regular challenges of life, which were part of the first Christmas.
Right, the first Christmas so long ago in Bethlehem. Tell me a little bit about where we are.
We're at a guest house, a Christian guest house in Jerusalem, and that it was built by French priests a little over 130 years ago. And it had a very complex history. Until 1948, it was rather steady, constant development. The priests got involved with archaeology, and they developed the site on Mount Zion of Peter and Gallicantu, and the same priests are there today. And then in 1948, with the conflict, the war, the Jordanian presence controlling the old city of Jerusalem, this became a point of border. And then after the Six-Day War, the Israeli forces continued to use it to be at Notre Dame, and there was a whole question about the future of the building, which had been very destroyed in the Six-Day War. And then the Vatican interceded with Golda Meir because all the Christians from all the different Christian traditions in Jerusalem were very sad to see this building lost for Christian usage. So then the Vatican asked, and Golda Meir agreed, and so the Vatican was holding the baby.
Right.
Using a Christmas image. And then it's not the mission of the Vatican, so they looked for communities or for delegates to run it. And first there were two priests, one for almost 30 years and then a priest for a shorter period. And then our community was asked 13 years ago to run and revive Notre Dame as a hospitality place. And we receive pilgrims from all over the world, tens of thousands every year. And we have about 280 people capacity overnight, and we have a big auditorium for 500. We have 4 different restaurants. So it's
and chapels.
And a beautiful chapel built by the same priests over 100 years ago. So it's a place pilgrims relish because you're walking distance to the Holy Sepulchre, to Mount Zion, to Gethsemane, and you don't need a bus. You can just walk over in 10 minutes at the Holy Sepulchre. In 15 minutes you're at the Last Supper room.
We're just across the street from the old city. In 12
minutes you're at the Western Wall. So it's a very accessible place, and you're also beside the new city if you need any other services there. And it's really a privileged location. Also, the view top from the roof is spectacular. The restaurant upstairs is very visited because of this.
Thank you so much, Father Kelly, for joining me on this special. We're going to take a quick break, but don't go anywhere. We have so much more coming up for you on this holiday special, this Christmas special we're bringing to you from Jerusalem, from the Notre Dame Center. Stay with us.
Fearless, timely, and always engaging. Every night, David Schuster brings the news from around the world to your front door. Watch Stateside, weeknights at 9 p.m. Eastern, only on I-24 News.
I-24 News.
Fearless, timely, and always engaging. Every night, David Schuster brings the news from around the world to your front door. Watch Stateside, weeknights at 9 p.m. Eastern, only on I-24 News.
Welcome back to the Holy Land Uncovered and our special broadcast for Christmas from the Notre Dame Center here in Jerusalem. Now, from lighting Christmas trees to singing Christmas carols to midnight mass, people all over the world are celebrating Christmas. Let's take a look.
With everything that happened this year, if there's one thing the holiday season does, it's spread hope and bring people together. We'll start off in Santa's village, where Santa and his elves are busy. At the village's busy post office, visitors send letters with a special Arctic stamp. The elves also sorted letters to Santa.
Merry Christmas and a very Happy New Year.
And in America, First Lady Melania Trump encouraged families to give back at an event for Toys for Tots, a donation-based military program that provides millions of toys to children in need during the holiday season. In Mexico, barriers were broken when American and Mexican bikers got together to spread Christmas cheer with a toy run for disadvantaged children. The toy run is a local tradition that unites bikers from motorcycle clubs in Mexico and the United States, showing that there are no borders when it comes to spreading good. And despite the crisis in Venezuela, the homeless got a special visit. Santa Claus and a group of volunteers looked for homeless people of all ages on the streets of Caracas to give them joy during this festive time of the year. In Denmark, hundreds participated in a Santa charity run, raising money for Christmas presents for poor families, giving 500 of the families a full Christmas dinner and a gift. And even the animals celebrated Christmas, with endangered lions, squirrel monkeys, and penguins feasting on seasonal treats at London Zoo. Much like humans, the lionesses woke up to a pile of gifts which they ripped apart, while the monkeys found festive stockings filled with treats. Moving to the Middle East, where despite the war, Syrians hung their New Year's wishes on a Christmas tree in a cafe in Damascus, with some wishing for peace, the return of loved ones, and a delay of military service, showing us that even the worst of circumstances can't stop hopes and dreams. Erica Jackson, I-24 News.
The Christmas tree has become the iconic symbol of the holiday, and our reporter Shelby Weiner went to check out some of the tree lighting ceremonies across the Holy Land.
Oh Christmas tree, one of the most recognizable traditions of the Christian holiday. Pope John Paul II once said, "In winter, the evergreen becomes a sign of undying life. It reminds us of the tree of life, a representation of Christ, God's supreme gift to humanity." In most of the world, tall pines covered in twinkling lights is an icon of the season celebrations.
Even though Christianity is a minority here in Israel, Christmas trees are going up across the Holy Land as both locals and pilgrims are decking the halls this holiday season.
For many people, putting up the Christmas tree is an important part of rejoicing in the Nativity. According to the Gospels, a manger in Bethlehem is where Christmas and the birth of Jesus begins. And in that little town, a big tree lighting ceremony kicked off Christmas season in the Holy Land.
I really enjoyed the tree. I feel like it's actually Christmas now. It's the beginning of December, and so I'm excited to spend some time in the Holy Land during the Christmas season.
Nazareth and Jerusalem soon after lit their trees, welcoming believers with their joyous decorations.
It is very nice and very touching. It is difficult to express my feelings when I'm so touched. The words won't come out.
It is an unbelievable feeling to be here. God willing, peace will come soon for both Muslims and Christians.
Christmas trees in the Holy Land can only be found in Arab cities or neighborhoods. The only lights in Israel are shining from menorahs.
We don't have a real Christmas in Israel, so it's like the best place to see the tree and the atmosphere. And
I've always enjoyed it, just to like look and stuff. But I mean, we're Jewish, so we don't really celebrate Christmas.
Yeah. We usually do Hanukkah.
Because of the Jewish majority, even the Christian pilgrims were not expecting the holiday spectacle.
It's really beautiful. We didn't expect it here because we thought that it's only in Europe or maybe in the USA that there is so many Christmas markets.
Along with the international pilgrims, there's always one visitor that knows where to find the best Christmas trees.
Merry Christmas, everybody. Wishing you peace, health, and safety, and special joy to the Holy Land. Merry Christmas. Ho, 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 ho. Thank you.
I'm joined now by our reporter Shelby Weiner to talk a little bit more about that piece. Shelby, you went to several different places and they had somewhat different feels.
Yes, everywhere around the Holy Land has a very different atmosphere. There's so many different cultures and people and ethnicities in such a small place that even without the Christmas spirit, you've got a lot of different atmospheres around the country. So of course, for an event like this, you could feel it especially. In Jaffa, that Christmas tree is in a very central location, so there's a lot of hustle and bustle and still everyday life going on around it. Meanwhile, in Nazareth, there's lots of tourists coming. It has a different atmosphere, a lot more international and foreign. And in places like Bethlehem, of course, it's very serious. And here in Jerusalem, of course, there's some extra feeling because Jerusalem's a city that has so many religions packed in a small place that you really felt it. We had the Christmas tree lighting here just across the street at the New Gate, and only a few hundred feet from there is the Damascus Gate where protests were going on. So you, within a span of a 2-minute walk, could go from a festive local celebration to a protest and political statement. So it's a strong difference from each place.
Right, and that protest coming after the American president's decision to recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, something which has been met by really condemnations by the Palestinians and many Arab leaders, and even in Europe there's a lot of opposition to this. It did affect some of the Christmas ceremonies in Nazareth, for example.
It affected Christmas ceremonies in a lot of places because many of these important sites for the Christian holiday are in the West Bank and controlled by Palestinian Authority. And on top of that, a large local population of the Christian community is also Arab. And because of that, it really put a damper on some of the mood, particularly in Nazareth, where at one point the mayor was considering canceling some of the municipality-run Christmas events, which is a really strong statement against what's happening politically, and also calls in this question of how are politics affecting religion. And because of that, there was a lot of people that were very concerned that Nazareth can't cancel Christmas, and the mayor ended up overturning the decision. And
right, he rolled it back.
Yeah, so full Christmas celebrations are still happening in Nazareth. We don't have to worry about the Scrooge coming, but it's definitely something that you can feel in the atmosphere here as people are getting ready to celebrate the holiday.
Okay, thank you so much, Shelby Weiner, for joining me. We're going to take a quick break now, but don't go anywhere. So much more coming up for you on this special Christmas edition from Notre Dame in Jerusalem. Stay with us.
I'm Tracy Alexander for I24 News. Join us on Perspectives and get the whole picture as we break down the day's top stories from all angles.
Perspectives, Sunday to Thursday at 5:05 p.m. Eastern.
News 24 es el magazine semanal de noticias y análisis en español de I24 News. Mi nombre es Carlos Burovich y conmigo en el estudio Damián Pachter y Yaniv Azulay.
Analizaremos todo lo que pasa en Israel y el Medio Oriente.
También pondremos nuestra mirada en el mundo hispanoparlante.
News 24 es el magazine semanal en español todos los viernes solo en I24 News.
In the Holy Land, there are wonders most people never get to see. I24 News will take you inside the shadows and unravel the secrets of some of the world's most revered sites in a way you've never experienced. All access from every angle. Tune in to Sacred Sites 360, Sunday 9 p.m. Eastern, only on I24 News.
Go beyond the headlines every day on I24 News. Host Ami Kaufman talks to the news makers and pundits to bring you the story behind the headlines. The Spin Room with Ami Kaufman, Sunday to Thursday at 8:05 p.m. Eastern.
I24 News.
Welcome back to the Holy Land Uncovered. I'm Jordana Miller. We're bringing you a very special broadcast today for Christmas from the historic Notre Dame Center here in Jerusalem. Now, just about 6 miles south lies Bethlehem, the biblical birthplace of Jesus. And Christian pilgrims are flocking there over the holiday to go visit the Church of the Nativity. There's also a very special Christmas market there, and our reporter Shelby Weiner went to check it out.
Most churches kick off Christmas season every year with Advent, the 4 weeks leading up to the Nativity of Jesus Christ. During this time, people worldwide begin preparing and spreading holiday cheer. And celebrations are no different here in the Holy Land.
It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas here in Bethlehem as the birthplace of Jesus Christ is welcoming Christian pilgrims from around the world.
For the 17th year, Bethlehem is hosting an international Christmas market that connects countries from all over the map to the very place where Christmas originates.
15 countries from around the world are participating. Every country displays and shows its products, whether it is food, sweets, drinks, and others. The vision for this day is to support families in need in Bethlehem.
For many foreign groups, it's become a holiday tradition to participate in the market. It's more than just a place to sell goods, it's also a time to share cultures and connect with different people.
Like every year, we are here to sell French products to people. French wine, French cheese. We also teach how to bake bread. We are happy to see people passing by our booth. They love our products because they can discover another culture, a culture that is different from the Palestinian one.
And for Bethlehem locals, it's also a time of joy, each with their own unique traditions. One group dresses up in costumes for the holidays every year.
Every year dress as the clowns in the holidays, in Christmas, Easter. We love bringing joy to the kids.
I just love to see joy in every face in the Christmas holidays and in every holiday, in every celebration, every festival.
From the little town of Bethlehem, Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night.
On Christmas, the faithful are celebrating the birth of Jesus Christ. They're celebrating the incarnation of God in man. And we wanted to delve into that theme a little bit more. So joining me now is David Parsons. He is the Vice President of the International Christian Embassy. David, thanks for joining me. Let's talk about that incarnation, which is so central for this holiday.
Well, it is a central celebration of Christmas is about the incarnation at its heart, where God came and took the form of a man. Of course, the Jewish tradition, you didn't have any images of God because he was like fire, Moses said, which, you know, doesn't take some form. But there's all sorts of allusions and scriptures in the Hebrew Bible, the Old Testament, about God actually coming in the form of a man. One would be Isaiah chapter 9, for unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given. Very Hebraic poetry, putting these alongside each other, that it's a child that's being born. This is a natural process for human beings, but a son, an existing son, is given, the gift of God. So even Isaiah has this allusion to God who dwells in unapproachable light, actually coming in an approachable form because we're made in his image. He loves us. We're the height of creation, and Christmas really celebrates that important event where God came in human flesh to be among us, dwell among us, to be like us, and actually to redeem us.
And that notion that God is not so different from man, that we were born in the image of God, somehow that makes relating to God, it facilitates that for Christians, doesn't it?
Yes. I keep going back over recent weeks to when God knelt and made Adam out of the clay of the earth in Genesis chapter 2, and he's actually forming, we're incredible beings, humans, nothing like us found in the universe yet, and yet God, as he made Adam, he knew he would take this form one day. We're not only made in his image, but he actually desired to come here and be among us. And so Christmas is more than Santa Claus, the wrappings, the presents. We give gifts because God gave his best gift,
which was Jesus.
Yes.
Now, we don't get very political on this show, but of course Christmas is coming just a little more than 2 weeks after the U.S. president recognized Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. It's a decision that is rejected by the Palestinians, many Arab leaders in the region. It's very controversial, but for Christians, why is this recognition central?
Well, this will be the first Christmas that we're celebrating in this new season where the nations are finally returning to Jerusalem. It will take a few years for the U.S. and other nations following the lead of Washington to come back. But Jerusalem is finally getting its due recognition and respect. This diplomatic sliding and snubbing of Jerusalem, as a Christian, I just don't understand it. And especially after 50 years, 70 years since Israel was reborn, we're still waiting for the Palestinians to decide whether they want peace or not. And I don't think the world should be held hostage to their intransigence, that it's the right thing to do. It was an American decision. Every country needs to come and honor this city because it means so much to billions of people of faith around the world.
Thank you so much, David Parsons, for joining me here on the special. Really appreciate it. We're going to take a quick break, but stay with us. We have so much more coming up for you on this Christmas special. We're coming to you from Jerusalem. You can hear the church bells ringing here at the Notre Dame Center. Stay with us.
A place of staggering beauty, with rock and salt formations not seen anywhere else on Earth. But could Israel be losing its most famous natural landmark? Some are saying that the Dead Sea may dry out completely by 2050. Find out why this natural wonder is in danger of disappearing forever. Can we keep the Dead Sea alive? Join us this week on I-24 News. Politics, economics, business, and technology. Get the real news and the real insight about what's happening around the world. Michelle McCory breaks down the top stories of the day from the Middle East to the U.S. Weeknights beginning at 7 p.m. Eastern.
Welcome back to the Holy Land Uncovered. I'm Jordana Miller. We're bringing you a special broadcast this week from Jerusalem, especially for Christmas. We're here at the historic Notre Dame Center, right near Jerusalem's Old City. Now, Jesus is often referred to as Jesus of Nazareth, and that's because the city in the north of Israel is where Jesus grew up and where he first ministered to the faithful. Our reporter Uri Shapira went there to give us a tour of the city that defined the life of Jesus.
The story of Jesus in the New Testament cannot be completed without this small city located in northern Israel. This is where, according to tradition, the Virgin Mary was informed by the angel Gabriel that she would conceive. This is where Jesus grew up, and here he gave some of his remarkable speeches. Welcome to Nazareth.
It's Christmas time in the city of Nazareth. This is Jesus' hometown. This is where he was raised. He was born in Bethlehem, but raised here. And back in ancient times, this was just a small little town. But you know what? Over the years, in fact, in the 20th century, the beginning of the 20th century, Nazareth was the largest built-up town in Palestine. Today, it's home to about 70,000 Arabs and mostly Christian and Muslim Arabs. It's the largest Arab city in Israel. And Jesus is from Nazareth. He's called Jesus of Nazareth. Nazareth, even the word Nazareth in Hebrew, Notre. It's how we say in Hebrew, a Christian.
The Basilica of Annunciation is now an impressive Catholic church. The compound tells us the unique relationship between two of the most iconic figures of the New Testament, Mary and Joseph.
Mary lived here, and eventually Joseph did marry her, and he took her into his house. And his house is over here. They have found the ruins of it. And, you know, Joseph was a carpenter. There's a statue here of Joseph. You see his hands. He worked hard. He was maybe a carpenter. They don't say carpenter in the Bible. They say an artisan. And the story is he was from Bethlehem, from the Judea tribe, and he moved to Nazareth, which was a small town, to work on the big cities like Sipori, which is over here, and maybe Tiberias. So this is where he worked, and that's his workshop over here.
The Gospel mentions this site as the place where the angel Gabriel appears before Mary and tells her the good news about the future, an event which changes the world.
This is the Church of Annunciation in Nazareth. Now, this church was built over what's traditionally believed to be the house of Mary. Mary was betrothed to Joseph. They didn't live together back in those days. Joseph lived over here, and this was Mary's house. So Mary's down in her house, in her cave, and along comes Gabriel the angel, and he says to you, "The Lord is with thee, blessed are thee amongst women." And he goes on to tell her that she will conceive and have a baby and call him Jesus. And Mary says, "But I have never been with a man." And he says, "The Holy Ghost will come to you, and the child will be called the Son of God." And Mary says, "Behold, the handmaiden of God." She was told by the angel Gabriel that she's going to conceive and give birth to Jesus. And in the altar there, we see something written in Latin. It says, "Verbum caro hic factum est," which means, here the Word was made flesh.
Inside the church, we can see a unique combination of ancient and new.
This church was built in the 1960s, and it was in a modern design. And what they did was they went around the world to the Catholic communities around the world and said, please donate something to the church, some artwork. And so what we have on the wall are mosaics and beautiful pottery artwork from different countries. And we see from Mexico, from Japan, from the United States, from France.
This site, called Mary's Well, is where, according to Catholic tradition, the angel Gabriel appeared before Mary.
This is Mary's Well. It's the only spring in Nazareth, and probably when Mary came to get water, she would take water from this well and she would bring it to her house. And this is the water that Jesus would have drunk as a child, as a young man. And many pilgrims and tourists come here because of that, so they can taste the water from the same spring where Jesus and Mary drank from. It's not written in the New Testament, but according to the proto-evangelical book of James, Gabriel first approached Mary here at this well with the good news, but she was so frightened she ran away to her house when he came a second time.
Nazareth is mentioned in the Gospel as the place where Jesus lived as a young man. This is where he first learned, prayed, and later preached at the beginning of his magnificent journey.
So Jesus goes to the synagogue in the city where he's been going for his whole life, and he says, "The light of the Lord is upon me." And he says that he is the prophet. And they reject it. And he says every town rejects its prophet. And he almost curses the people of Nazareth. He says that women will become widows, they will have famine, there will be leprosy. And he says that he is the prophet. And they say, this is just unheard of. And they start chasing him to the edge of town.
Mount Precipice on the outskirts of the city of Nazareth has a breathtaking view of the Valley of Jezreel. This is a possible location for the rejection of Jesus, a series of events which saw Jesus outcast from his community.
So he's standing on the edge here. They're going to throw him off the mountain. But he turns around and he faces the crowd. He has no fear. And the crowd parts, and the gospel says he walks away.
After leaving Nazareth, Jesus continues his journey in the Holy Land, as is mentioned in the book of Mark. Then Jesus went from village to village teaching the people, and he called his 12 disciples together and began sending them out 2 by 2, giving them authority to cast out evil spirits. He told them to take nothing for their journey except a walking stick, no food, no traveler's bag, no money. He allowed them to wear sandals, but not to take a change of clothes. More than 2,000 years after the birth of Jesus, Nazareth continues to be a major site for tourists and pilgrims from around the world.
My next guest has been celebrating Christmas in Jerusalem's Old City for more than 35 years. David Pileggi is the minister of Christ Church, and we are so happy to have him here on the show today. I want to have you kind of tell us what it's like actually to be in the heart of the Old City on Christmas.
Well, it may sound like a cliche, but it is actually very special. And let me speak as someone who came from the United States 35 years ago, because Christmas here would be radically different than what people would experience either in Europe or for example, the United States. And in a blessed way, it is so much less commercial. And there's a lot less emphasis on, frantic activity and shopping and going to events. And I think what the gift that we have here is that people really enter into the spirit and the meaning of the holiday.
And tell me a little bit about what the message of Christmas is for you and your congregation. Protestants obviously are not Catholics. Is there a different emphasis on this holiday or not really?
Really, there's not much of a different emphasis. I mean, the emphasis the differences might be minor, and they really come down to perhaps different traditions, but both communities are going to, Protestant communities, Roman Catholic communities, we're going to celebrate by going to services, being with family, having a number of festive meals during the season. So we have those similarities in common.
And for you, what is the most important kind of message of Christmas?
Our church emphasizes, especially that we're in Jerusalem, that this is while it's a Christian holiday, it's really a Jewish story. And we like to emphasize the Jewish elements of Christmas because it actually helps us to better understand our faith. And this might seem a little unusual.
Yeah, what do you mean by Jewish elements?
Well, if you read the Gospels, the whole idea of a miraculous birth, it's a biblical Jewish idea. The fact that kings are coming to pay homage to the Messiah, the fact that you have angels and shepherds, these are all elements that you find within stories and Second Temple Jewish literature. And so while it may not be a Jewish holiday, it is indeed, as I said, a Jewish story. And once we delve into that, then we have a better understanding of our faith, as I said. So it really strengthens us and empowers us. And being in Jerusalem inspires us to do such a thing.
Thank you so much, David Pileggi, for being with me on this special. Really, always love hearing your insights on the Old City since you've been there so long. Thank you.
You're so welcome.
We're going to take a quick break, but don't go anywhere. We have so much more coming up for you on this Christmas special. We're coming to you from Jerusalem, from the Notre Dame Center. Stay with us.
I'm Emily Francis on I-24 News. Join us on Trending right here on the show that shines the light on the many amazing people doing positive work to inspire. This is the show about building bridges.
Weekdays at 8 a.m. Eastern, only on I-24 News. Israel, the Middle East, the world. Get your daily dose every morning on I-24 News. News from around the world to around the corner. Jeff Smith brings you the top stories, the hard news, and analysis you need to know. Weekday mornings at 7:05 a.m. Eastern, only on I-24 News.
We wanted to give you a taste of Christmas from Europe. Our reporter Polina Garayev has this report from Berlin.
Well, Christmas markets exist right now everywhere in Europe, but the tradition was actually born right here in Germany, dating back to the 14th century. Hundreds of Christmas markets are open right now all across the country, 70 in Berlin alone, but this is probably one of the most special ones. This medieval Christmas market allows visitors to dress up as knights and princesses and try their hand at archery and axe throwing. Woodcarvers and blacksmiths are showing here their craft alongside huts serving traditional food, mulled wine, and hot mead.
Well, I just think that Christmas, or the time before Christmas, is a really nice time to spend the winter and to come together and to eat nice things and to spend times with friends and family, or just hang out and to make a very uncomfortable, cold time a little bit nicer.
I just think Christmas markets are a really good opportunity to get out of the house when it's really it's very dark, the days are very short. It brings some light into your day, enjoy some good food, enjoy some time with your loved ones.
I genuinely like eating all of these different foods and watching other people celebrate the holiday and being with my friends.
This Christmas market and most others will shut down in the coming days, so Berliners are motivated to come and have one last taste of mulled wine. But considering how beloved this tradition is in Germany, you can be sure it will return the next holiday season. Polina Garayev, I-24 News, Berlin.
Joining me now to talk more about Christmas and specifically the place of Bethlehem in the holiday is Father David Neuhaus. He's a former vicar of the Latin Patriarch. Let's talk about the meaning of Christmas because, you know, for many in the world it looks so commercialized now. And we have to kind of peel off the layers to get to the spiritual message of Christmas in this modern day. What is it for you?
So maybe a little comment before we get to the meaning, and I promise to get to the meaning, and we don't have to deal with the peeling away because Christmas being celebrated in a place where we are such a small group among Jews and among Muslims, we have the real thing. We don't have a lot of commercial surroundings around Christmas to peel away. So I think that when it comes to the meaning of Christmas, I think we all focus on something very, very important, and that is God's faithfulness. In the midst of the darkness, and of course, yes, in this part of the world it's winter, but we look around at the world and it's a pretty gloomy, dark, sad place. In the midst of that, God brings into the world the light of the world. And that, of course, for us is Jesus, this small infant that is born in very precarious circumstances. And so 2 other things that we can mention about the meaning is that, number one, we are called to really make a place for him, to prepare a place so that when he comes into the world this Christmas, he will be welcome. We know that he wasn't so welcome when he came in the first time.
When you say make a place, do you mean make a place in your heart?
Make a place in our heart, make a place in our communities. Be aware that we are not at the center, that he is at the center, and that God is working through him. And I think that another element which is very, very important at Christmas, and particularly in this world which looks so gloomy and which is so unwelcoming, we are called to remember that he's knocking at the door and he wants to come in. And so he comes in, not alone, but with all those that he's come for. And those are, of course, the poorest of the poor. And so the Holy Father, the Pope, has stressed right through his pontificate, and the popes before him, that this is also a time of heightened awareness of all those that need hospitality, the poor, the homeless, the refugees, the migrants.
Is that the connection between the vulnerable circumstances of his birth and this heightened sensitivity to the poor and the needy on Christmas?
Absolutely. I mean, Jesus came into the world. I wouldn't say that he was the poorest of the poor. He was born into a medium family, an ordinary family. His father had a job. His mother looked after him. It was a kind of ordinary family, but of course living in a very precarious situation when he was born, because as it's described in the gospel, they were sent off to the town that his father had originally come from, and they had no home there. So knocking on door after door, and this is inevitably a part of how we present Christmas to the children. They knocked and nobody would allow them in. And so finally they were given a place with the animals. And it's there, between the ox and the donkey, according to the traditional image of Christmas, that Mary brings Jesus into the world, and nowhere to lay him but that manger. Of course, we immediately make a connection, which is very important for us, that you don't generally put babies into a manger. A manger is where the animals eat. But he has come into the world to be our food, to be our spiritual food. But he will also say later, when he's grown up, I am the bread of life. He is the light of the world, the bread of life. And we acclaim him and welcome him with a lot of joy. Christmas, of course, that is the big challenge. Looking around the world, not finding many reasons to be joyful, we are called to celebrate when Jesus is born.
And of course, that story plays out in Bethlehem. Thousands of pilgrims, tens of thousands, will flock to the Church of the Nativity. Let's talk about that spot.
Well, let's say that from your mouth to God's ears, we really hope that there will be thousands and thousands and tens of thousands of pilgrims. In the present situation, we really fear that many have cancelled and will not come. But of course, Bethlehem is very important. Bethlehem is not Jerusalem. Jerusalem is the center of our faith. It's in Jerusalem that this baby will grow up, will be crucified, and will be raised. So all eyes are focused on Jerusalem, but Bethlehem is an integral part of the story. And of course, it's interesting to look back and see that Bethlehem has played an important role all through what we call the history of salvation. Bethlehem is the town of David. David came from Bethlehem, and Jesus, in the first verse of the gospel, is called Son of David, meaning a descendant of the royal house of David. But of course, Bethlehem is a very important place, not only because of its integral role in the history of the people of Israel, but also the story of Ruth, who brings in all of the Gentiles into the story. Ruth the Moabite, who recognizes the God of Israel. And so Bethlehem is, in a very real sense, a place of birth of Jesus, the Messiah, of David, but also of what we call church, which is this unity of Jew and Gentile together.
Thank you so much, Father David Neuhaus, for joining us. We're going to take a quick break now, but stay with us. We have so much coming up for you on this special Christmas program. We're coming to you from Jerusalem, from the Notre Dame Center. Stay with us.
I'm Khaled Ben David.
And I'm Nareet Ben.
Join us on The Rundown here in the heart of the Middle East for a candid conversation.
A closer look at the stories born out of this region and driving changes all the way to Washington. Every Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern, only on I-24 News.
I-24 News.
Welcome back to the Holy Land Uncovered. We're bringing you such a special show today for Christmas from Jerusalem, here at the Notre Dame Center overlooking the Old City. And it was there that 100 years ago, the British general Edmund Allenby defeated the Ottomans here in Jerusalem and triumphantly walked through the Jaffa Gate. And joining me to talk about what Christmas was like for those British soldiers 100 years ago is Eran Tirosh. He is the chairman of the Israeli Society for the Heritage of World War I. Eran, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Dr.
Tell me a little bit about what it was like for those soldiers.
Well, it depended a lot who you were and where you were. As a matter of fact, on the 24th, on Christmas Day, there was a plan to actually take a little bit further north of Jerusalem, some ground, in order to take out Jerusalem from the range of the Turkish artillery. And lucky for the Turks, unlucky for the British, there was terrible weather conditions at that moment. And so, let me quote from the official history of the British forces. All was ready by the 24th, but on that date, there was a downpour which continued throughout Christmas Day. The roads on which so much labor had been expended were again almost impassable. 6 inches deep in mud, where soil and metal had not been washed off by the hill streams in Spain, with the solid rock exposed where this had happened. The advance was again postponed.
Okay, I want to hear the good Christmas story.
Okay.
Because
so,
somebody was rejoicing, I know.
Exactly. And there was a fascinating case where an American Baptist priest who wrote one of the most incredible books, I think, a very short book about the fall of Jerusalem and the miraculous things around its surrender, came up with an incredible quote. And I must say that at first when I saw that quote, I had my serious question marks. Is the story real true? Right. And later on I checked, and it is. And we can actually see the place where it took place just in front, just behind me, over there. We have a beautiful church, the Cathedral of St. George. Yes. And over there, listen to this one. 14 days after the city was captured, on Christmas Day, the Cathedral of St. George had a most unique Christmas program. During the war, the bishop was compelled to leave. The church was taken care of by the American colony. Much of the inside had been dug up in search of a cannon. Someone had told the Turk that the British had a cannon in the cathedral, and they were determined to find it. But the cannon left with the bishop. On Christmas morning, the cathedral was packed. The Old Testament lesson was read by an Orthodox Jewish rabbi, the New Testament lesson by a Greek patriarch, the sermon was preached by an Englishman, an American presided at the organ, and a choir of Welsh Tommies furnished the singing.
Wow.
What a service.
What a service. International, right, amazing. Amazing, amazing. Eran Tirosh, thank you so much for joining me and giving us a taste of what Jerusalem was like 100 years ago when the city finally came under the hands again of a Christian nation. Thank you. Now, if you can't be in Jerusalem for Christmas, the United States is not a bad second choice. In New York, a great place, actually. So we're going to take you live there to our reporter, Tal Heinrich. She's going to give us a taste of what's happening in Manhattan.
When they say it's the most wonderful time of the year, they surely mean Christmas in New York City. Every corner in the city is completely decorated, especially where we are now, Rockefeller Center. It's the iconic Christmas destination for tourists and locals alike. Everyone comes here. It's the yearly pilgrimage. People from all around the world gather here to celebrate Christmas, celebrate family, celebrate this incredible atmosphere, and watch the yearly lighting of the Christmas tree right here behind me. But it seems that something is missing this holiday, and that is snow. Take a listen. We want to get you into the holiday spirit.
I guess so. We sort of skipped presents this year because we've come all the way from Australia. But yeah, there's definitely lots of shopping here and lots to buy.
Basically, we're not celebrating Christmas. I'm Jewish from Israel, and I just celebrated Hanukkah. And actually, no, I don't know how I'm gonna celebrate, but maybe I'm gonna catch a movie or something.
My dad is gone, deployed, so just us spending time here together is really special.
Jack, what would you like to get for Christmas this year?
A shark.
He wants a shark.
That's it for our Christmas special here at the historic Notre Dame Center in Jerusalem. We hope you enjoyed the show. Join us again next week, same time, same place, for another edition of the Holy Land Uncovered. And whatever you're celebrating, we hope you have a fantastic holiday season.